Hi everyone, Namaste. We are going to learn about honeybee, and this topic is taken from Unit 14 Invertebrates of Compulsory Science of Class 10. And in this presentation you will see some information about honeybee and some important question and answer. Honeybee is useful insect, and Apis mellifera and Apis cerana are domestic honeybees. Commercial farming of honeybee is called apiculture or beekeeping. Honeybee are known as social insects as they live in a big colony, and so very good division of labor among them. So according to the division of labor, there are three types of honeybees: queen bee, drone bee, and worker. Importance of honeybee. Honeybee provide honey which is nutritious and high energy food. Honeybee provide wax which is used as raw material for cosmetics. Honeybee is used in medications and making other foodstuffs like bread jam, and honeybee helps in pollination. Look at this diagram. The honey is extracting from the honeycomb, and this is a honey wax, and this is a worker bee collecting nectar and pollens. The life cycle of honeybee completes in 4 stages: egg, larva, pupa, and adult. A queen bee lays 2000 to 3000 eggs in a day, and a single egg is laid in a single comb. At larva stage, the larva, which is to be queen bee, fed on royal jelly only for whole period of larva stage, and the larva, which is to be drone and worker bees, fed on royal jelly for 3 days, and rest of the days it is fed on by honey only. And the pupa stage is a very inactive stage. Do not eat at this stage. At this stage, this comb is closed. Okay, the wax cap is comb is closed by wax cap, and there is a formation of nutrition. The physiological change occurs in the pupa stage, and that changes emerges, as a adult bee. From the pupa, queen bee, drone bee, and worker bees are produced. In this way, the life cycle of a honeybee completes in 4 stages, like in other insects. Now we have some questions and answers. What is apiculture? Commercial farming of honeybee is called apiculture. And write any 2 names of the domestic honeybee. Apis mellifera and Apis cerana are the domestic honeybees. And what are the 4 stages of honeybee? Egg, larva, pupa, and adult. And what the importance of honeybee? Honeybee provide honey which is nutritious and high energy food, and honeybee provide wax which is used as raw material for cosmetic. And why honeybee are called social insects? Honeybee are known as social insects as they live in a big colony, and so very good division of labor among them. This is the diagram of honeybee, and the body of the honeybee is divided into 3 parts: head, thorax, and abdomen. Look at here. This is the head. I can see point out from the pointer. Head, and this is the head. You can see all these are the head, and thorax. This all are the thorax, and abdomen. This whole part is the abdomen. And the other parts are it has a pair of antenna. Look at here, and a pair of compound eye. One's here, one is here. And it has 3 pairs of legs. I can see the legs. And this is a 3 pairs of legs and a pair of wings. This is the structure of the honey bee. And there are 3 types of honey bee: and queen bee, drone bee, and worker bee. Look at this. This diagram is a queen bee. There is only one queen bee in a hive. big in size. It is big in size and abdomen is elongated. That means the abdomen is longer than other bees. So to identify the queen bee, we have to compare the abdomen, because the abdomen of the queen bee is longest one than other bees. Queen bee is a female bee. Queen bee has stringer. Queen bee developed from fertilized egg. Now, function of queen bee, it mate with the drone bees and it lay eggs. The main role of the queen bee is to laying eggs. Now, we discuss some questions regarding the queen bees. Okay, the first questions, describe the specific structure of the queen bee. So, the queen bee is the biggest bee in colony of bee, and it has a stringer, it has no basket in the legs, and it has a longer abdomen. Okay, and what are the function of queen bee in a colony? The main function of the queen bee is to lay eggs, and the queen bee conduct nuptial flight. Look at this is the diagram of drone bee. Okay, drone bee are medium-sized bee, and drone bees have large eye to spot queen. So look at here, to compare, to identify the drone bees, you have to compare the eye. The size of eye is bigger than other bees. Okay, so one criteria to identify drone bee is eye. It has a larger size of eye to spot the queen bee. Okay, next, drone bees do not have stringer. Drone bees are male bees and they are developed from unfertilized eggs. There are about 200 of drone bees in a hive, or some authors say that 5% of the bees are drone bees. Now, the function of the drone bees, drone bees protect the hive from the cold, and the drone bees participate in mating flight. Okay, the drone bees pushes up to the surface of the hives during cold season by worker bees, and they covers all the surface of the hives and hence protect the hive from cold in the winter season. Now we have some questions regarding the drone bees. Okay, describe the specific structure of the drone bee. Drone bees are medium-sized bee and they have a large eye to spot the queen, and drone bees do not have stringer, and drone bee are male bees and they are developed from unfertilized egg. And what are the function of the drone bees? Okay, drone bees participate in nuptial flight, and drone bees protect the bee hive from cold. Now look at here, this diagram is of worker bee. Okay, the characteristic feature of the worker bees are a small sized bee in a hive, that is the smallest bees in a bee colony. And worker bees are sterile females, that means they do not lay egg and they do not take part in the fertilization process. The mouth of the worker bees are adapted for chewing and lapping purpose, because they have to collect the nectar and pollen, so their mouth parts are adapted for chewing and lapping. And leg of workers bees covered with hair. And the function of worker bees: worker bee collect nectar and pollen, worker bee protect the hive from the enemies, worker bees construct the hive, form honey, bee wax, and worker bees serve larvae, queen bee, and drone bees. Now we have some question and answer regarding the worker bees. The first question is, describe the specific structure of the worker bee. Worker bee are the smallest bees in the bee colony, and worker bees are female bee and they do not have fertile capacity. Worker bees have a small basket in their leg, and the leg is covered by hair, and the mouth part of the worker bees are chewing and lapping type. And the worker bees is developed from fertilized egg. Now I have another questions. What are the function of the worker bees? Okay, the worker bee collect nectar, the worker bee construct beehive, bee bread, bee wax, honey, the worker bee protect the hive, the worker bee take care of other members of the colony. These are the most important questions, you remember it. Okay, now we have another set of questions. There are 3 questions, and these questions are the important questions, and it may be asked in group B, C, or D? And these questions 1 and 2 are especially in group C and D. Okay, so let us study the questions. Okay, study the adjoining diagram and answer the following questions. Identify the queen bee and worker bee. And second sub question is write one similarity and one dissimilarity between A and C, and write one function of B given in the figure B. So look at here, the three B's are given in these diagrams, A, B, C. Okay, you have to identify queen bee and worker bee. Okay, so let us compare the abdomen. The longest abdomen is figure A, so it must be the queen bee. So queen bee is A. Okay, and this B, okay, the figure B is drawn because the size of eye is bigger than other bees. So this is a drawn bee, B is a drawn bee, and the rest of the bee is worker bee. Only there are three types of bees, so the rest of the bee, this is worker bee. Okay, so queen bee is A and worker bee is C. Now we have to write the one similarity. So the similarity between the queen bee and the worker bee, they are both female bee and they are both developed from the fertilized egg. Okay, and one dissimilarity, that is, okay, the queen bee is biggest bee in the colony and the worker bee is the smallest bee in the colony, and that way you can write. And another you can write is that queen bee lay eggs, whereas the worker bee do not lay eggs, even it is a female bee. Okay, or the queen bee has a fertile capacity, whereas the worker bees do not have fertile capacity. Okay, and queen bee do not collect nectar and pollens, whereas the worker bees collect nectar and pollen. Okay, so any one dissimilarity you can write. Okay, now write one function of the bee given in the figure B. Bee is a drone bee, so one function or role of this bee is taking part in the nuptial flight, okay, and protect the beehive during winter season. Okay, now next questions 2. Okay, study the diagram and answer the following questions. Identify the comb of queen bee and drone bee, and write feeding process of larva of each comb. Look at here, the comb of queen bee and drone bee. So we know that the queen bee is a largest bee in the colony and the worker bee are the smallest bee in the colony. That is why here in this diagram what we see, B is the largest comb, C is the second largest comb, and A is the smallest comb. Okay, through the height I can see that. So the comb of queen bee is B because its size is bigger and the size of queen bee is bigger. Okay, and the drone bee, the comb of drone bee is C because it's the second largest, and the drone bee is a medium sized bee. Okay, so the comb of queen bee is B and the comb of drone bee is C. Now write the feeding process. We know that the feeding process is different for different larvae. Okay, it depends on what they should becomes at the adult stage. Okay, so let's see. Let us start from A. It's the smallest comb. It is a comb of worker bee. So it is fed by royal jelly for 3 days, and rest of the days it is fed by honey only. And similarly in the comb B, it is a comb of queen bee. So the larva of this comb is fed by royal jelly for whole period of the larva stage. Okay, and similarly the comb C, this comb C is medium size, so it is a comb of drone bee, and that is why it is fed on by royal jelly for 3 days and the honey only for the rest of the days. Okay, now finally the third question is write the differences between drone bee and worker bee. Okay, the first simple difference is drone bees male bees and worker bees are female bees, and drone bees are developed from unfertilized egg, worker bees are developed from fertilized egg, and drone bee are lazy bee and worker bee are busiest and hard working bees in the colony. And drone bees take part in the nuptial flight, whereas the worker bee collect pollen and nectar. Okay. Okay. About 3 to 4 days, the eggs of honeybee hatch into the larva. Now we have a questions and answer related to the larva. So the first question is, what is fed to larva to produce it into queen bee? Okay, during the whole period of larva stage, only the royal jelly is fed to the larva to produce it into the queen bee. And another question, what is fed to the larva to produce it into the drone and worker bees? Okay, royal jelly is fed for 3 days and honey is fed for the rest of the period of the larva stage to the larva to produce it into the drone and worker bees. And another question, the lifespan of the larva stage of queen bee is 5.5 days, and another, the lifespan of the larva stage of drone bee is 6 days, and similarly for the worker bees. Okay, the lifespan of the larva stage of the worker bee is 6 days. Now we have another set of questions. It is a fill in the blanks of the fill in the blanks type questions. Okay, the first question is, the lifespan of the pupa stage of queen bee is 7.5 days. And the lifespan of the pupa stage of drone bee is 12 days. And the lifespan of the pupa stage of worker bee is 14.5 days. Remember these days, okay? These are important. They may ask in the very short questions, okay? And 2 marks questions also. Now we have another set of questions regarding the adult stage of the honeybee. Okay, what is the lifespan of the queen bee? The lifespan of the queen bee is 2 to 5 years. And what is the lifespan of the drone bee? The lifespan of the drone bee is 2 months. And what is the lifespan of the worker bee? The lifespan of the worker bee is 6 weeks to 6 months. And similarly, how long does it take to form queen bee? Adult queen bee forms in 15 to 16 days. And how long does it take to form drone bee? Adult drone bees forms in 22 to 24 days. And how long does it take to form worker bee? Adult worker bee forms in 20 to 21 days. Now these questions are the most important questions, so remember all these points. Now we have one information. What is mating flight? Okay, nuptial flight. The queen bee comes out from beehive for copulations with drone bees, and this flight is called mating flight or nuptial flight. And after nuptial flight, in 2 to 3 days, the queen bee lay eggs. Okay, we have a last questions now. How does worker bee identify their hives? They go away from the hive to collect the nectar and pollen to a long distance, and they come back to the same beehives. How it is possible? Okay, we see, look at here. The queen bee produce special kinds of smell. By smelling that smell, the worker bees can able to identify their hives, or they can come back to the same hives. Even they travel to a long distance to collect nectar and pollens. Okay, so queen bee produce special kinds of smells. Okay, by smelling these kinds of smells, they can come back to their hives. The questions that we discuss in these sessions are the most important questions. So be prepared and practice that questions at homes. Okay, this was for today. We have another videos in next coming videos. Okay, and thank you for watching the video.